I'm Joe, and this is a Valhalla Bound podcast, sponsored by Valhalla Exotics, your number one choice for reptile feeders, reptiles themselves, as well as quality products that are custom made and designed for your reptiles. I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm excited to bring on Craig. I wanted to bring Craig on today because Craig has been instrumental in beginning the Valhalla journey and getting things started for me, as well as an absolute quality friend. I met Craig while working in the medical facility that we both worked at together, and Craig is someone who dreams just as big as I do, if not larger. And one of the best things that I like about Craig is that he not only dreams for himself, but he's able to see the dreams in other people and loves to use his experience to help them establish and accomplish those dreams themselves. So Craig, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, Joe, I really have a passion for helping everyday people, professionals, really kind of have this. I hear a lot of people, they want to start their own thing, they have hobbies, they have passions, and how easy it is to turn a lot of those passions and things into businesses. And I remember the conversation that you and I had. You were talking, and I could just hear it in your voice. You had a really clear idea of what it was that you wanted to do. And it's like, Joe, that's a thing. That's a business. Like you can make some money at this while doing something that you absolutely love. And I don't care who you are, where you are. There's something in your life that you can turn that into a passion for yourself and make some money doing it along the way.
And it's been a fun ride.
It's been a great ride. Yes.
I remember we were sitting in the cubicle where we chart and had my notebook out that had all my one-day dreams for Valhalla.
Right.
You asked what I was doing, and I started showing you the logo I had drawn and all the stuff, and I pretty much word vomited everything on you. And at that point, most people are like, I'm not talking to this guy anymore. But you saw something more in it, and I'm glad you did.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
So you are fairly recently excited about and starting into reptiles, and I think that is an important time because there's a lot of people who don't like reptiles. Immediately you hear talk about snakes and like
like me.
Don't.
Like me.
Like
it was like me.
Yeah, that's how you were initially. You were like, I don't want to hear about it. Don't.
Well, it's so funny that we're talking about the whole business journey because I was never really like a snake fan. Like I wasn't horrified of them, but never really saw them as something I was interested in. And we were actually at your place doing a social media shoot, and I remember, Joe, I was looking at his collection, we were taking a lot of pictures, everything, getting the website ready, and Joe put a ball python in my hand. And at first I was kind of like, thanks for putting that ball python in my hand, Joe. But you know what? It was kind of a magical, transformative moment. And it's like, hey, these things are pretty cool. And I remember watching you work with your animals and, all of these fears or, the distaste that people have for snakes. Like, it's not founded. Like so many people, when they hear that I have snakes, they're like, oh, that's not my house, right?
Right.
But there's a lot more people bitten by dogs than are anybody that's hurt by a snake.
Yep.
But here we are, everyone's terrified of them, they hate them. They're amazing animals.
They're
and I have you to thank for that, and it kind of started to get out of control. So
it is it's
addictive.
It's
addictive.
I told my wife when she asked me, hey, why don't you get back into your hobbies? Why don't you get a snake again? You like those. And I was like,
oops.
Baby,
Oops.
If I had an addiction, that was it. So that is a quick shift from one to many. I think I'm up to almost 45.
I've got 4.
But
I've got
once
4.
you pass 2 to 22, it's very
It's a
close
small
to
step.
It's a very small step.
It's a very big gap for that first one, but after that, it's a small step.
So that moment when you first held one and you saw, like, it's safe,
Right.
It's not dangerous, and you see me excited about it, that's one of the things that I like about what I do, is that moment of, usually it's the parent, like, we're at a show, and the kid comes up and he's like, wow, can I touch it? And you can see just, oh God, no, in the parent's eyes. Usually mom, sometimes dad, and they're like, no. And he's like, no, baby, and I'm like, absolutely. A lot of the shows and stuff now, like, if you're not buying, you're not allowed to hold it. And
right.
It's not the same as, like, when I was a kid. Kind of, they would be reserved about, letting a kid hold a snake because I was just running wild trying to hold everything at the pet store. And my mom's trying to wrangle all 3 of us. But that moment of when, like, yeah, absolutely, you can hold it. And I hand that snake over. and you see the wonderment and just the, like, they can't take their eyes off of it. And at first the parents like nervous, and then you can see them like the snake starts moving, they start to settle down, and there's that beautiful moment I'm always trying to create,
Right,
where it's
right.
just like, maybe all of my like prejudice or preconceived notions about these animals
It's unfounded.
It's unfounded. It's not true.
Right.
My parents were afraid of snakes. Their parents were afraid of snakes. My ex-boyfriend's cousin's dog got chased by a water moccasin, and I'm terrified of snakes now. And all of that fades away right there. And now they want to ask questions, and I can share about.
Yeah.
I love that moment. I wanted to try and capture that for the audience because I'm hoping that some people are not reptile lovers and fall across our stuff, or maybe a friend shows them, and they can become curious rather than fearful. Fear is founded in something that I think is a lack of knowledge.
Right.
And when you don't understand something, it's scary.
There's a great quote with that, Joe, and that says, "Don't be afraid. Fear isn't real. It's something that we create." Fear comes from the fact of of a lot of scenarios we work out in our head, right? But danger is very real.
Right.
There's some things out there. They're dangerous. There's dangerous snakes.
Yeah.
There's definitely animals out there that
There's some of them in my room.
I stay away. Some of them in your room. I stay away from those too. You're right. But we have this fear of these animals, and it's just so many people are terrified of them, and your passion for that is infectious because I have it now. So we'll have a bunch of parties at our house. We'll have a bunch of pool parties, and the snakes always come out.
Yep.
The snakes come out, and you know what? They're a big hit.
Yeah.
They're a big hit. People again. They're fascinated by them. They want to hold them, and then once it's therapeutic. Like
Right.
they're very gentle animals. They move very slowly. They're very patient.
I think better than a dog.
Absolutely.
People knock on the door, dogs are barking, they're jumping on everybody, kids are getting scratched.
Yes.
And I'm like trying to corral the dogs outside. But then,
And the kids.
Yeah, and the kids, get everybody out. Everyone out of my house. But when the snakes come out, that peace that comes over, that wonderment, that like infatuation with. We had one of my kids' birthday parties, Madeline.
Yeah.
Like we set up 3 different blow-ups in the backyard, and there's just a swarm of kids. I felt like the zombie apocalypse. There's just kids everywhere. I was like, my floors will never financially recover from this. And at one point, Madison, who does another TikTok video with us, where Madison comes in and holds things she's scared of.
Oh right.
She,
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are
her
great.
daughter is not scared of anything.
Yeah.
And was like, Mr. Joe, can I hold a snake? Yeah, let's get out of here, kid. So we come in, and I had them out here, and I got one of the snakes out and was letting her hold it. We're sitting on the ground together. And then another kid comes in, and another kid comes in, and then there's a picture where I'm sitting helping the kids, and there's just a whole bunch of kids surrounding me, holding the snake.
And they're fascinated.
And the parents are like,
The
what is
parents are
happening?
horrified. And they share that fear.
Right,
with
and
the
it gets
kids.
passed on. But
So-
the kids don't naturally have that. That's one of
No.
the things that I like to point out to people is that kids naturally are not fearful of animals.
Right.
My wife doesn't like bugs, which is surprising being that there are thousands of them in my office. And she passed that on to Madeline initially. If a moth flew by, Madeline was like, I'm out, I'm done. Now, like Craig said, there's danger. So Madeline still is nervous around wasps or bees because she's been stung and she knows the danger of respecting that animal. But being able to let her hold the roaches, let her hold the crickets, let her catch things outside with me, grasshoppers. Kids are not naturally afraid of those things.
Right.
And so we do have to teach them what's dangerous, but we stifle that wonderment and that enjoyment that they could have from a pet that is not traditional and is honestly way easier to keep.
Oh my God. So let's talk about that. So let's say you're thinking about getting a snake. Let's say you're entertaining the idea, you don't know where to start, you're going to be a new owner, because I can speak to this. Like I think I've kind of been in the hobby for about a year.
Yeah.
And number one, you hit the nail on the head. One of the easiest animals to take care of.
Yeah.
They feed once a week. When they become adults, it's every other week. You don't have to take them out for a walk. They're just leaving them in their environment is fine. We just make sure that they have fresh water.
Yep.
We want to make sure that the cage is clean. They don't poop very often, but when they do,
they eat and then they poop.
They're gonna eat and they poop.
That's it. It's not like
feed once a week, poop once a week. You're not sitting there picking the litter box every day.
I wish I could figure out the math behind what a rabbit consumes and how much they poop. Because if I could figure out that and get that to happen with my money, I'd never need to work ever again in my life.
Right, good money.
Yeah, it's just, they eat this much, and then there's a pile of shit in the corner, and I don't. Whereas with the snake, you give it a small item, rat, mouse, whatever, and then there's a small poop, you scoop it out, and you throw it away. Doesn't stink. They don't make noise, which there's enough noise in the house, you know.
They're quiet.
They're quiet. They're great roommates.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have so many people that will contact me, even though I'm Valhalla Exotics and it's an exotic reptile business. I got a message just the other day. Hey, do you know where I can get a rabbit? A frozen one? To feed something, or like a pet? Because I don't do pet rabbits.
Right.
But I started talking to them. I'm like, okay, you're gonna need a cage. You're gonna need an outdoor cage.
Right.
You're gonna need fresh hay and vegetables. You're gonna need rabbit food. It's gonna poop. It's gonna stink. You're gonna have to clean the cage, you know, a couple of times a week.
Right.
Like, you don't have that issue with snakes.
No.
Or lizards.
No.
Lizards can be slightly more work, but they're just easier pets.
And you know, it's funny you say that, Joe, because like even at some point in my experience too, I picked up a chameleon, and you know, between the snakes and the chameleon was cute. But it was just too much.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the enjoyment from it.
That you do from the snakes.
With the snakes.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, so if you're thinking about getting that first one, their ease of care, without a doubt, is one of the huge perks.
Right.
About having a snake as a pet.
Even with as many as I have, I think I spend, you know, a couple of times a week, I might go in for an hour and change everybody's water and double check temperatures and things, unless somebody dumps a water dish or takes a big poop and needs to have some bedding change. It doesn't take me that long to take care of even the large collection that I have. So that's one of the nice things about them. So, like, what was your first snake that you got? Tell about it.
So I bought two at the same time because
we never do anything the easy way.
We don't, and because you're such a influential person, right? So of course one of the ones that I got was a morph ball python. If you are probably your first snake, I think ball pythons are a great choice. Very docile. They're very easy to take care of. You can get some morphs. They come in some incredible, like my.
You can't even keep up with how many there are.
My girl's, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. And people that don't like snakes, when they see Brenna, they're always like, oh my, she's beautiful.
Something about those non-traditional colors also helps ease some of that initial anxiety. You have a black snake,
she's beautiful,
or a bright green snake, and those are traditional and people are more reserved. But then you have something like Brenna, where
nice
gorgeous,
to look at,
bright yellows and cool patterns, and they're like, that's not normal. That's actually kind of cool.
Right.
My wife is in love with ball pythons, and my daughter has 3 of them, and that's what I started with. I got my first ball python buddy when I turned 11, and much to my mother's dismay, she did not want a snake in the house, but she was the same as you. Never in my house, and then we got the first one, and she was like, "Oh, this is easy."
Yes.
Like, get rid of the ferret, get rid of the rabbit, get rid of the hamsters. You can have
snakes for everybody.
Snakes for everybody.
Snakes for everybody.
Just Oprah. You can have a snake, and you can have a snake.
Everyone gets snakes.
Everyone gets a snake.
So you have an incredible collection of green tree pythons and emerald tree boas.
Yeah.
So as I started learning more, I didn't realize that there was a big difference between tree snakes and ground snakes. So the other snake, I got 2 at the same time. The first one was Brenna, the ball python. She's on the ground, right?
I had a little bit to give her over to you. She is pretty.
But I wanted a green tree also, and so I have a Biak green tree python. And here's the thing that's amazing about them. Like, so a Biaks, they're notoriously kind of bitey, kind of like maybe a little bit more aggressive. So it's maybe not a great starter snake for a new owner.
Brand new owner, yeah.
So Oscar is my green tree python. Joe had him. He screens all of my pets, looks at them, makes sure they're healthy, they're right. He turns this thing over, and I'll be honest with you. The first time I got him, Oscar sat in a cage probably for 3 weeks before I had enough courage to reach into that cage to kind of do something with them because of their reputation and because I'm inexperienced.
Right.
Okay. So I remember one day I decided today's the day.
That's it.
Today's the day. And I got to be honest with you. It was a bitey day.
Yeah.
It was the first time Oscar and I kind of met. Had him out, and I know that he struck me time and time again.
I think you sent me a picture.
I did. I sent videos. I took videos of this snake because here's the thing too. Like, they're small.
Right.
So we have this fear of snakes that they're these terrible things, but you know what? Like, they're small.
Right.
So even when he would strike, even when he would really, like, it wasn't painful.
Right.
It's just, I'm being bit by a snake.
It's a fast movement.
It is.
I think it's the strike that scares people way more than the actual damage of the bite.
Right.
Because their teeth aren't designed to cut or tear. If you don't yank it away, which it honestly does more damage to him,
Right.
there's not a lot of damage to it.
Just let him bite you.
And when they're little, it's way better to let them get
Oh.
that out of their system
Yes.
than when you have a full-grown emerald that doesn't want to be handled and you have to move it.
That's a fact. So if one of your first snakes you're looking at getting, if it's a baby and it's not used to being handled, like, it's like you always said, like this, you open up the cage, this thing's like, this giant's going to reach in this cage and grab me. They're terrified. They're afraid.
Absolutely.
They're afraid. So Oscar and I kind of had a rough first day.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? Like, that was the day where it's like, okay, I'm terrified of him because he's going to bite me.
Mm-hmm.
And he bit me. And the world didn't end.
Right.
And it wasn't that big of a deal.
That was it.
So you kind of ended up losing that fear. Now, here's the flip side of it, though, because everyone's like, why would I want a snake that's going to bite me?
Right.
I'm going to tell you. After that first handling, I think over the past year and a half, he has probably struck at me maybe one or two more times.
Right.
And most of the time, he would rather just kind of like just strike at you because they're not like dogs. Like a dog, you can look at a dog and you can say, hey, the dog's in a bad mood today.
Right.
Not going to pick it up and play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes don't express emotion like that. And they have bad days too. I mean, they're like me. I have bad days.
Yep.
So with them, a lot of times, that's the only way they have to communicate. It's just kind of like, hey, don't touch me.
Maybe a hiss and then a defensive strike, because everybody thinks that when a snake strikes at you, they're going to reach all the way out and grab you.
Right.
They don't have that big of a
No.
range, depending on the size of the animal. And then I've had so many times where a snake would strike at me and be like, hey, not today, man.
Right, that's it.
I'm just not feeling it.
I don't even
And
want
they
to
don't-
bite you.
And they don't even open their mouth.
No.
They'll tap you with the
That's it.
edge of their head. They'll pull away. They'll run.
Yeah.
I have one of my females that I'm hoping is gravid, and I want to ultrasound her. And I went in, and she had unplugged her heating source, so I'm plugging it in, and she's on the other side of the cage. And she did a defensive, mouth closed, and I was like, oh.
My wife did that when she was pregnant too.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's a good sign.
She's the same.
So learning, and I think that part of that plays into experience, right? Learning to read the animal, because every animal is different.
No doubt.
So
No
you,
doubt.
over the last year, have learned
That's correct.
his body language,
That's right.
his ability to communicate with you.
That's right.
And I think that's even a cool aspect of being able to understand that people who have never worked with reptiles or haven't had any or kept any in the past, they don't get that connection that you build with them.
Right.
It's not like, it's not like a dog who's going to meet you at the front door and you can be excited and wagging tail, but that connection of having an animal that is fully capable of violence, which so are dogs and cats
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
all of those, but having an animal that is a predator and being able to understand them and work with them and build a trust level where, like, I got my great big emerald female. She came in full size.
Oh, she's beautiful.
And she's gorgeous. She's the one who had the babies for me last year.
Yeah.
And she was not nice.
Right.
But through learning to work with her and then using our removable perches system that we use in our caging, she lost that fear of, he's going to pull me off, I'm going to fall, I don't want him to touch me, this is my zone, this is my thing. And just going through and learning how to read her and how to care for her in a way that is respectful. There's like a respect between the two of us.
Right,
and now
right.
I can pull her out and she trusts me and I trust her not to do anything aggressive while I have her out.
And I remember, Joe, that's one of the first things that you told me too, like, because you did a lot of coaching for me.
I try to do with
through
every customer.
Right, yeah. I mean, so I got these snakes, like, what do I do with them? And, they do kind of sense that fear.
Right.
And that was one of the big, I think, a transformative kind of process with it. You still have to respect them. You can't be fearless with
Right.
it. You have to, you have to have respect for them.
Right.
But the thing is that animal is going to be as confident around you as you are with it.
Yeah. The more confident you act with them, the more relaxed they are in the aspect of, if I'm nervous and my heart rate's up and my hands are hot and I'm, shaking and nervous, they sense it.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know what this guy's up to.
Yeah, what's up? Right? This guy's he's gonna hurt me.
Right. Okay.
And it's so funny that we're so afraid of them
Mhm.
without taking a perspective of like what their perception
Right.
of us.
It's
must
always
be.
portrayed as aggression.
Right.
Anytime that somebody says, oh, I've got a mean snake, it's always, my snake is mean. He doesn't like me. He wants to bite me. The snake does not want to bite you. He doesn't want to. He doesn't even want to live in your house if you don't have
Oh,
it set up
and
correctly.
here's the thing. Here's the thing that's amazing about that. On that point about them being aggressive, they're not aggressive.
No.
Because if you left the door open to the cage,
Mm-hmm.
and your snake, or any of my, because some of my snakes have gotten out.
Mhm.
Okay, that snake is not going to run around the house try to find me and bite me.
No.
Every single time they find a little corner, they go, they hide in,
Somewhere warm.
they wrap up,
And they hang out.
and they want to be left alone.
Yeah.
They want to, they're not there to hunt you down.
No, they're not out hunting us. Even the snakes that get big enough to do that, we're not worth it. There's not enough meat on us for them.
Right.
So
Yeah, like they're easy pets to maintain. They're easy pets to keep. They're easy pets to learn. But there's different snakes for everybody.
Right.
Ball pythons, again, super easy animal to get, to learn, to feed, set up the
and one of the
environment.
most prevalently available
Yeah.
species to work with. They're not difficult to find.
And you know what?
find.
And there's a lot of price range
Yeah.
for a ball python. That's another thing too. I mean, we have some specialty snakes, and they can get
Pretty
pricey. But it doesn't have to be expensive.
No,
It
it doesn't have to be at all.
expensive.
You can get a standard colored ball python for $25 to $30 at a store,
Right.
and then even their setups, comparatively to like spending a ton of money on rabbit enclosures or hamster. Remember the tube systems? for,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hamsters back
Oh,
then?
oh,
I had
yeah.
like this elaborate like McDonald's playground for my, and I know it was wildly expensive, but they're not as expensive to care for
No.
or upkeep. The
No.
feeding and things like that, it's fairly simple. Let's talk about the ball python. How do you have your girl set up?
So that was a learning curve. That was a process that you helped me with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Learning about things like how the hides, right? Because these animals, for the most part, during the day,
Nocturnal, they're gonna hang out in the
Right.
hide or a burrow somewhere.
because there's things that are hunting them during the day. So
Absolutely.
they stay hidden during the day. So they have two hides, right?
Yep.
I learned about how to create temperature gradients, and all that means is you just have to have a heat source in there because they're cold-blooded animals. They can't produce their own body temperature, right?
Right.
So they have to be able to have a space in there where they can, they can choose that if they're cold. I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm hot, I go jump in the pool.
Yep.
If I'm cold, I can go,
Put on a sweater or just change the thermostat and get yelled at by the wife.
you got it. You got it. So again, for the base in my cage, I've got a nice coconut fiber base for the bedding. I got a couple hides in there, a water dish,
Yep.
and
that's it.
and just a heat pad that goes underneath the cage,
Yep.
so that if she's cold, she has somewhere to go, she can warm up, and that's it. That's all it takes.
It's so simple. And the nice thing about that setup is, as long as you have an adult-sized setup for them, there's no upgrading, there's no changing.
No.
You change the bedding out. I change mine I use the puppy pads for the arboreal stuff because they're not going to sit on it anyway.
Right.
So every time they poop, I change it. But for my other species, that coconut, I could change it out every 4, 5, 6 months, depending on how dirty it is and how often that animal poops or urinates inside the cage. And then the food, it's not expensive either.
No.
We get,
No.
I breed the rats, and I know I
Right.
bring them over to you and sell
Right.
you those. So, it's not hard to acquire those. You're feeding your guys frozen thawed, correct?
Frozen thawed, yeah.
You like that versus the live?
I've never done from your advice. I've never done live rats with them, but again, a lot of the research and looking around, it's kind of a little bit more. It can be more traumatic for the owner. Not everyone wants to see that. They don't want to see that,
Especially the wife.
especially the wife.
Don't keep them in the same freezer. Get your own freezer. That's
Right,
hide it
right.
underneath the pound of hamburger that you're never.
But it's so much easier to feed them that way. It is. You just keep them frozen. It's convenient. If you're feeding them live, that was one of the problems that I had with my chameleon. Is like we had feeding
Mhm.
crickets all the time.
Yep.
So if you end up feeding them live rats, you've kind of got another pet that you're taking care of too, because
Right.
you have to take care of the rats.
And it's inevitable. Even if you go to the pet store and you buy them, I can't tell you how many times, because I had a collection of 60 pythons back in the day.
Yeah.
I would bring home 60 rats because I worked at a pet store, and it was inevitable that one of them wouldn't want to eat, and now I've got this pet rat.
Now I've got a pet rat.
And I have to. Oh, what am I going to put it in? I got another cage and bedding and water, and I don't have food for it. Now I have to get rat food.
Right, right.
And the pet store's not going to take it back.
No.
So
No.
now I'm stuck with it until next week when it's feeding time again, or in a couple of days. So I really prefer the frozen thaw.
Yeah.
And there's less risk because as your snakes get bigger,
Right.
you don't have that biting issue because you have a large snake eating a large
Yeah,
rat.
the rats aren't going to go
They'll
down
fight
quietly.
back.
Yeah,
I'd
they're
take
not
a
going down
I
quietly.
would take a snake bite over a rat bite any day. Just with the breeding, I've had some of them lay into me, grabbing babies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that is way more traumatic than any snake bite I've
Oh.
ever taken.
Yes, so like feed them. So again, if you're thinking about getting them, the care of them, super easy animals. They're very make sure and do your research about which one you're going to get.
Right.
I also have a hognose, which I absolutely
That's right.
love. His name's Loki. He's one of the most social for a snake.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the most social pets I've ever had. And when I come in the room, he is up on the side of the cage and he wants picked up.
Yeah.
And if I take that lid off and I put my hand under the cage, he will crawl onto my hands. He loves
to come out.
He loves to come out.
That's how your McGander, my false water, is.
He loves
He
to come
loves
out.
it. And I remember when I came over last time, you showed me the area they were at, all the cages were in.
Yeah.
And immediately he was like, "Hey,
Friends. We have friends.
we coming out? Can I come out?"
I want to meet Joe.
That's probably the only one that would meet you at the door. And wag
It
his
is.
tail
It is.
if
Yeah.
he had the
Yeah.
option.
But it's just it's unique to him. And again, a really, really fun snake to own. They're very simple. They have some really fun kind of characteristics and traits about them. They also come in a bunch of different morphs.
Right.
That's another
Yeah.
animal that you can get quite a few of them in.
I've been doing this so long. I remember when there were none for those.
Oh, for the
For the
hognose.
hognose, there was just hognose,
Just the hognose.
eastern and western hognose, and now there's tons of morphs. You've got leucistics out there, all whites and black eyes. It's pretty crazy.
Beautiful
Beautiful
animals.
snakes.
And I've also got a boa, and I have to tell you, like that's the last one that I picked up.
Uh-huh.
And
Me too.
she's beautiful. She's also a morph, but she's a little bit sassy. So
Uh-huh.
I'm glad she's not the first snake that I owned.
Yeah.
For sure. But I've really learned over the past year how to work with her a lot better. But just because that's the unique characteristic of her.
Right. Each one
You know?
you can have the same
Personalities.
exact snake, same exact morph. Like it's not limited to anything genetically. You can just have one snake that is really calm and docile, and
Right.
the same exact snake that is just like, hey, listen, I'm not about this whole handling
Right.
thing. You feed me.
He's introvert.
And-
She's kind of
yeah,
she's
that-
kind of an
that's it.
introvert.
That's exactly what it is. Some of them are. I have a few of them that are just like that, and you learn to work through that.
Yes.
Work through those
With the
nuances
snake,
of-
you
with the
learn
snake.
you learn with the animal.
It's
You learn.
definitely a relationship thing.
Yeah.
Like you learn how to respect them and how to do what you need to do. So I need to clean the cage. I need to change your water.
Right.
I need to feed you. But let's figure out a way that we can do this without either of us getting grumpy about it.
You don't bite me, I don't bite you.
Exactly. I mean, we won't have to go down that road. If you stop biting me, I won't bite you back.
But and then I think another thing, if you're going to be if you're thinking about being a new owner, you're thinking about getting one, maybe for yourself, maybe for your kids as a pet.
Yeah.
And make sure you have a good resource, because that's one of the things that's been incredibly helpful for me is just having access to Joe. He's definitely my go-to guy for all of them. Any problem I've ever had, probably 90% of them he's fixed over the phone, and the other 10%, like he'll come out. Like he comes out, he
Yeah.
looks, and it's always just like one of the biggest problems I had was when my green tree wasn't shedding right.
Yeah.
So Joe came out, taught me how to give them a little spa bath,
Yep.
how to help them get that shed off.
Yep. And how to watch the eye caps and
Right.
rotating sheds and things like that.
So have an expert. Definitely have a source of information. Your website, your Valhalla Exotics website, has lots of great information. Your care sheets.
Yeah.
It's just the care sheet will take you step by step. Everything you need to do to take care of this animal.
Yeah, a lot of the things should be answered by a care sheet, and then having that mentor or like a resource that you can reach out
Right.
to. There's a contact page on the website, so if somebody doesn't have a mentor, or if you don't have somebody you can contact, feel free to message me or contact. I've been doing this for 20 years, and if I can drop everything I'm doing and talk about reptiles, as Craig knows, I will. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what I'm doing. I will drop everything and
You
talk
just-
about snakes.
You just have such a passion for it, though, and especially I think one of the areas that you're really shining with that is really, if you are a new owner, your ability to understand what the animals need. You understand the mistakes that a lot of new owners make.
Mhm.
And I know every time I ever call you, there's a list. What are your temperatures? What's your humidity? He'll walk you through a list. And every time I've had an issue with that animal, it's never been the animal. It's something I'm doing.
Right.
I don't know that you can have a bad animal.
No.
It's just bad husbandry.
If in an aspect there's a way that if you have wild caught with parasites,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's still
yeah.
not their fault. It's how they were brought into the country.
Right.
It's things that we need to overcome initially. But once that animal's established, or if it's captive bred and it's housed appropriately, and it's not always something you did like I don't think you ever did something purposeful to like
No.
change something about their care.
No.
But things that you don't think of, like moving it to a different,
Oh,
moving
yeah.
the cage to a different
Oh,
spot,
yeah.
changing the temperature in your house because flipping the heat on because it's cold now in your house instead of hot like it is normally here in Florida.
Right.
It's only cold for a week here in Florida, but that change in temperature and switching the venting and those minute things are things that without experience you would miss and you wouldn't think of.
Absolutely.
And now why is he not eating? Why is his shed bad? Why is he sitting on the bottom in the corner? But he's overheating. Just the other day somebody messaged me and they're like, hey, my snake threw up. And I went down the list. What are the temps?
Yeah.
What is this? What is that? And I get down through asking the questions and he's telling me that he hasn't changed his setup at all. And I'm like, okay, but what are your temperatures? Because you said that everything's the same as before. And I always get that answer. Oh, it's the same as before.
Yeah.
Or, oh, they're perfect. And I'm like, no, what are the numbers? Because they're not.
Because they're not.
Because I promise you they're not. His AC was out and he had opened up all the windows, but he didn't change any of the heating source.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the heaters are still set and none of the heaters are on. But his house is 90 degrees and they pay animals in a micro ecosystem.
Oh, yeah.
And he's baking in there and he's too hot. And I was like, dude, get your AC fixed or put him at your mom's house or your friend's house or something.
Cool them off.
And cool him off, and snakes are doing fine. And it's that experience of these are the things that go wrong and what affects those.
Right.
That I love to provide to people, and I love working that out.
So, yeah, if you're thinking about being a new owner, again, super easy to take care of them. Make sure you do your research on the breed.
Absolutely.
So you're making sure that you're getting a beginner snake, corn snakes.
Something that is
great
going to be
animal.
appropriate for your housing.
For
You
your-
can
oh yeah! Oh, let's
provide
talk about that.
enclosure size.
Because they're gonna be, my little hog nose, like he's full grown adult, and I
Yeah,
don't know,
little
he's,
guy.
he's
They don't get very big. I mean,
not at all.
12, 15 inches at the max. A female would push that 2 foot mark maybe, but it'd
Right.
be a huge one.
But you go out and you end up, I know that my boa and my ball python, like that's a bigger investment.
Right.
So do your research on that. Know how big that animal is going to get, how big you want one to be.
I mean, I feel like 90% of the Burmese pythons and reticulated pythons that people owned in Florida were bought at a pet store as a tiny baby and told it's only going to grow to the size of the enclosure. And then they have a 9, 10, 12 foot snake and they're going,
they're huge.
this is not what I signed up
It's
for.
too much.
So research first, obviously. Have a mentor as a resource, somebody that you can ask questions to.
Yeah, send Joe an email. Tell him what
Absolutely.
you want and what you're wanting to do, and like how would they reach you, Joe? What's your email address?
So my email address is joseph@Valhalla Exotics. If you want to reach the Valhalla site itself, you can send info@valhallaexotics.com. There also on our website is a phone number. 727 is 282-5222. And it's on our website there. That's a direct reptile line. I have people that can text me there for like emergencies. You are welcome to reach out to that number and text it, and usually I can respond back and fix things. Phone calls I will answer within 24, 48 hours because I do still have a full-time job until
Right.
this
And a life.
is full-time.
And a life.
And a life, kids,
Kids.
family, and a ton of reptiles to take care of. So feel free to reach out to that. I'm happy to help with any questions, concerns, even if you didn't get the animal from us. That's not something that I'm like, well, did you buy it from me?
Oh yeah.
I don't care about that. I care more about the animals that you have and about their well-being and care, because if I can help you with that, then the animal has a better life. I don't care who it came from.
Well, and you have a better experience.
Right.
Like I mean, your passion is helping people, learn, have joy, have a passion for, this hobby, and
Mhm.
to have a new appreciation for these animals that tend to get like pushed aside
Yeah,
in the world.
the ostracized animals in society.
Yeah, they're kind of like cast out. And they hey,
Maybe that's
like,
why
hey,
I
I
like
didn't
them.
do anything. I didn't do anything.
Maybe that's why I like them so much, because I was always the weird kid growing up who liked snakes, and so I was like, well, nobody likes you either. So as a final couple questions here, you got the green tree, Oscar.
I do.
Brandon the ball python, Loki the hognose.
The
and then
hognose.
What was the name on the?
Brunhild. It's the
Brun-
boa.
Brunhild.
Yeah.
Brunhild the boa.
Yeah.
But you're already at 4. What's one more?
Yeah.
What's next? Or do you have like a dream species, something that you're like, this is really cool, I'd like to get one of these?
Well, yes, but I'll never have one, which
Okay.
is one of those bush vipers. Beautiful animal. Way out of my scope of ever having one.
It's a lot of hours. I can personally say.
Yeah. So again, I'm just gonna have to keep a photo of it. That the bush viper's just gonna have to be just a photo.
We are working on with our designer for our T-shirts and all of our products there. She actually does prints, and so if we can find, I'll talk to a couple of my friends who have those. And we'll see if we can get out and do a photo shoot with you so you can experience it.
Oh my God.
And then we can take and print out one of those photos and you can hang it up on the wall.
I love it. I love it.
That way you can keep it even if you can't keep it at home.
But, is there a dream species? I really think for me, I think the 4 animals that I have, that's going to be plenty for me.
That's so responsible.
It's enough.
I can't do that.
It's hard. It's hard because you have an incredible collection, too, of the emerald tree boas. Absolutely love them. Beautiful animal.
Yeah.
But I just really think for me, the 4 that I have, I think so.
Right.
I think so.
That's very mature and responsible. I will never have a number. I'll never have a number like this is too many. I could be like.
You're like Noah. You're like Noah. Like you just want 2 of each.
Everything.
2 of each.
I've said that for so long.
You're Noah.
2 of every species, and I'd be happy.
You're Joah.
Joah. That'll be my nickname. So, what would you say initially with your start in the reptile journey? What was the most difficult thing you found to master? Like the most difficult aspect? Okay. We've talked about how easy they are.
That's a great question.
But that learning curve of, like, it's not a hamster, it's not a gerbil, and I can't just throw food and have fresh water and keep it at room temperature and everything's fine. There's specifics to their care.
Yeah.
What did you find was the most difficult to manage?
Me. I think the number one thing that was most difficult for me was kind of, again, just getting comfortable with the animal. Because I was also spent an entire lifetime really not caring for them. I wouldn't say I had a fear of them, but I just never really cared for them. So making that transition into appreciating them for what they are, that was hard for me.
Yeah.
And that was that first time. Like I was horrified to take Oscar out of his cage for 3 weeks. Because, and here's the thing, like they have to get comfortable with you. You have to get comfortable with them. An animal like that, with the green tree pythons, you have to get those moments out of the way when they're little.
Right.
And you have to get them accustomed to being with you when they're little.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell you, he is one of the most magnificent animals. I love. He's my favorite. Like they're all my favorite, but he's my favorite.
Right.
Because their reputation, and he's nothing like that.
Right.
He's nothing like it.
I love showing that off.
And I even know people that have other green trees, and they're like, oh, I would never get him close to this, or like he loves to just like get him out. He'll wrap, he'll just cuddle. He sits there. I pet his head.
Yeah.
He hangs his head like it just So for me, one of the hardest things was me.
Right.
So I think the second hardest thing was probably your initial setup.
Yeah.
Kind of understanding the importance of the temps and the humidity. Because keep it in mind, like we're here in America, right? We're in Florida.
Right.
But this snake isn't indigenous to this area. It's not. This snake is not from Florida.
Right.
So for this animal to live inside this environment, you have to make their environment like their home environment.
Right.
I think that the green trees
from New Guinea and off the coast of Australia, the island changes over that way.
Yes.
So hot and humid, which
hot
we
and humid.
have, but not. It's like our temperatures are higher than the temperatures that they hang out with in those environments, those rainforest type ecosystems that they hang out in. Our temperatures get significantly hotter, but also you're not keeping them outside.
No.
So our internal air temperatures.
Right.
My house
is not right. My house is not up there.
No, it's not that hot. So manipulating those can be. It can seem overwhelming initially.
Initially.
First trying, when you're looking at it, you're like, well, which heating source do I do?
Oh my God! Yes.
Which do I use lights? Do I use red light, blue light? Do I use the white light? Do they need UVB? Do they need?
Yes.
And that's where having a mentor to talk you through all of those initial, which should be done at the pet store.
Oh yes.
It should be done at the pet store when you're picking up the snake. Unfortunately, very few pet stores that even carry reptiles are.
They're not knowledgeable
about them. They'll give you random answers. Oh, just keep them warm. Throw this light on it. It should be fine.
Right.
It should be fine in a glass cage, and it doesn't work out that way, unfortunately.
Right.
You keep Oscar in one of our VCC systems.
Oh my God, he loves that cage. I was fortunate to get one of Joe's prototypes for it. I was keeping him in something that was a little bit more like display oriented, which worked okay when he was little. But I was learning, he was learning, and then Joe actually got me one of his first prototypes for his cage. He's never been happier.
Yeah.
He's never been happier.
Love my system that we worked on, and I loved that I got to send that over to you.
Oh, yes.
Essentially, test dummy
Yes.
on your snake. I mean, I kept mine in similar items,
Yeah.
but actually being able to put the system together and send over and see how well it works. Because, like you said, you initially had those shedding problems. And he was a
yes.
glass display,
Yeah, yeah.
and the humidity was hard. I remember you had the fogger,
Yes,
and you were spraying
yes.
all the time. And it was the same things that I had to do
Yes.
with mine. I was always spraying mine, and then I set mine up with those, and I sent the cage over to you, and now we don't have to spray very often.
No, no.
The humidity stays high, they shed well, they
Yes.
eat well, and then having less viewable area, I
Yes.
think makes the snake, when they're little, or if they're wild caught and don't really appreciate being on display all the time,
Right, right.
that really helps enhance their comfortability and confidence in their cage. Like, I'm safe in this environment.
Right.
It's okay to eat. It's okay to move around.
Yes.
Versus an animal that's constantly like, I feel like I'm watched. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm under
they're
a
stressed.
microscope,
They get
they're
stressed.
out. They're always going to be in a bad mood. And when you change that, and then adding our removable perches so we don't have
Oh,
to pull
that-
them off,
yes.
and they don't think they're going to fall, those simple care aspects, changing over, and just paying attention to them and what they're telling us.
Yes.
Is what I feel like the system does. Is it's
And learning those cues.
right.
You know, learning those cues. But your cage system, the way that it's set up and designed, it holds the humidity so much better. It's got the 2-temperature system built into it for the perches. It's got the fan in it so to make sure he doesn't overheat.
Right.
Once it hits a certain temperature, the fan system kicks on,
Yeah.
pulls some of the ventilation in. That your design is well ventilated as well.
So that you get that airflow because
It's not like just keeping them in a tub.
right,
You
which
know?
is
They got fresh air.
they get fresh air in it. Even though the system is a tote, even though it is a plastic enclosure, the ventilation allows that airflow across just like they would if a breeze was blowing
Yeah.
across in the perches that they were sitting on in a tree. The temperature is going to be from the top. We have the heat source on the top, and then
Right.
we monitor and it controls the actual temperature of the perches, which they're going to be absorbing that heat from. It's not like they're going out because they're a nocturnal animal and basking in the sunlight. They're receiving their heat source from the tree that they're sitting on, from the environment that they're in. So creating that circulating
That
air,
ecosystem.
that micro ecosystem,
That's like home.
and designing it so that they're comfortable. It's like me coming into 73 degree temperature house with my lazy boy
Right.
kicking my feet up. I don't need to wear a sweater. I don't need to put extra. I don't need to put socks on. I'm comfortable in my house. This is my macro or micro, depending on which direction you're coming from,
Right.
ecosystem, and they deserve the same.
Because like if you go to Alaska,
Mhm.
you still want the same living conditions you have here,
Right.
right?
You
Or
still
if
want
you
it
go
warm.
to the Sahara Desert,
I want it to cool off.
you want it to be cool. You want it to be like your what your
So
custom.
no matter where they've gone to,
Right.
they want to feel comfortable, and that's what I like about providing those products and designing those. Is all of my products, rather than just being something that's been, well, it's a fish tank, but you can use it for this, or yeah, this is a perch for a bird, but you can use it for this. These products that I'm designing are specifically for the animals,
And
a
you're
lot of
always
times
refining them.
species
That's what I like too. It's like you're always
Yeah.
refining them. Like I know even after the cage that you built for me, like I know you've made a lot of changes and modifications to it to make it better. It's always getting better.
There's always little things, and I will listen to customers when they talk to me.
Yeah.
One of the most recent things that I was like, why didn't I think of that? I sold a kit to a customer who bought an emerald from me, and he gets it home and he sets it up, and he's like, dude, it was so easy, but the portal, when I tried to cut out the portal, like I had to shave it up a couple of times, and like I wish that you had like a template that I could just tape to it and then cut it out. And I was like,
Done. Done.
why didn't I think of that?
Joe says, didn't I ship that?
Didn't I
Hang
send that
on,
to
I'll
you?
send it to you right
I'll
away.
email. I'm just going to draw a square on Word and send it over. So little things like that. I love to hear customer feedback.
Yeah.
And when people come to me with an idea, I have an R&D guy essentially that 3D designs and generates these products so that I can test them out. And I use them in my cages and test all the products. And once the product, I'm like, this works, this is easy, I like it. Then I start moving it out to customers. So I'm open to other ideas. And
Yeah.
there's a whole world of reptile equipment that could be created. There is infinite possibilities of how we can do this. I think that's what excites me so much
Right,
about it is
right.
that we've been keeping reptiles for a long time.
Yeah.
And nobody has stepped up to the plate to be like, all right, we're going to make products specifically for. I mean, we have Exoterra, but I mean, I know the reps for those companies. And the one thing that they've told me is that they have to keep their products so generic and so almost anti-specific.
Right.
Because it has to be able to apply to a broad range of reptiles
Yes.
and a broad range of animals
And that's
in
difficult.
order for the chain pet stores to put them on their shelves.
Because even the 4 snakes that I have, even my
Mm-hmm.
4, each one of them has a different living profile.
Right.
So you can't just have a one size fits all approach because one size doesn't fit all.
Exactly.
Their personalities are unique, but where they come from is unique, and their living environment is unique.
Yeah, even down to where they like to hang out. They might be from the same area, but terrestrial versus
Yeah,
arboreal
right.
versus diurnal versus nocturnal. The diurnal snakes are out hunting all day long. Their metabolism's higher. You have to feed them more often. The nocturnals are, ambush predators. They go out and will sit in a spot, and they might wait there for 3-4 weeks, and their metabolism's slower. You don't need to feed as often.
Right.
All of those little care aspects makes it so that each one is exciting and unique,
Right.
because it's almost like a puzzle that
It is,
fit
it is.
together, and that's what makes it fun. But then, in addition to that, setting up each ecosystem and monitoring those temperatures and getting it dialed in. When you have that week, and you're like, it's feeding day, and you go in, and everybody grabs it. They grab it, they wrap it, they eat it. A couple days later, they take a poop, and you clean out the cage. Everybody's happy, everybody's
Yes,
healthy.
yes.
I sit in my room and I look at the cages all over
Yes.
the wall. There's just that accomplishment feeling.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is a challenge. It's exciting, but with experience and knowledge, it makes it fun rather than daunting like it is when you initially start.
And they're such.
They're just not as hard as people think.
They're not. They're very simple, and and I think with a lot of people, what makes them a little bit different is, if you have a dog, you come home and the dog's there wagging his tail, a dog's going to give a lot back to you,
Right.
emotionally.
Absolutely.
And you may not feel like maybe on the front end that like that your snake does that,
Mm-hmm.
but their brains lack the part that really has emotion,
Right.
which is what I think a lot of people don't like them for. However, those animals will come to respect you as a companion
Mm-hmm.
and someone that is an essential part of their life, because all my snakes, they know that I'm their caretaker. I'm their caretaker.
They recognize you specifically
Yes.
in as a separate entity
Yes.
towards other people.
Yes.
They will react differently to another person than they do to you.
Yes.
And that's a magical moment.
It is.
Too.
It is.
I feel like I equate it to
Yes.
kind of like that guy-to-guy camaraderie at work, right? Like if you have a coworker at work and you really respect them and you like who they are and you're working with them that day, everything flows smoothly, everything's good,
Right.
and you I respect that guy.
Yeah,
Like, he's
yes.
a good dude. Rather than the dog that's just like, I'm so excited to see you.
No matter how you treat me.
No matter, you could kick me every day.
Yes.
I'm still gonna be excited to see you when you get home from work. And with the snake's like, you treat me wrong,
Yes.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
I like that. I love that though.
There's that line, but it's a respect.
Yes.
And
We're still friends.
Yeah.
But if you mess up, I'll hold you accountable.
Yeah.
The dog, they're gonna they're always wagging their tail.
I've stepped on the dog's tail
all the time.
and
They're
they don't
wagging
do
it.
anything. They don't care.
But that snake, he's gonna love you just fine. But you step on the line or whatever, he's gonna remind you.
And they'll do a reminder. There's
remind you.
consequences to your actions.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Right. I don't like when you touch my tail.
I don't like it.
I don't like when you pet my head. That each snake has their thing.
Right.
And so that when you learn each animal and you get that, you're finally able, you get them out. And it's that one snake that it was always an asshole.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, you got to come out, man. And you get him out, and he doesn't bite you. And he's watching you, and he's like, we gonna do this today? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I get the cage clean, and then he goes back in the cage, and it's just like, good on you, sir. Like, hey, we're cool. And it might be different next time, but
Today,
we had a good day.
Yeah.
It was great. That it's definitely a different thing where that respect aspect to that care. And I'm kind of a show off, right? I like to be the cool kid because I wasn't when I was a kid. But when other people who are fearful
oh yeah,
see you pull out a great big snake,
yes,
and you're like, yeah,
Yes.
that's fine. It doesn't
Yes.
bother me at all. It's like, it does feel cool to gain that animal's respect.
Yes.
When so many people view them as something that is not able to be handled or not able to.
and you make them confront that.
Right.
You know,
They
you
have
make them
to
confront that.
evaluate
You know,
their thoughts on it.
you know, it was so funny. Like this year for Halloween, when we were handing out candy, I had my ball python out.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, she's getting pretty good size now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was amazing to me, and I think you brought this up before. How many of the kids were fascinated by it,
Whoa.
and then how many of the parents were like, "Don't touch that."
Oh hell no.
And then I'm like, no, you touching me? Fine. She's fine. She's a sweet girl. Has never bitten me one time. No, it's never struck at me. You know, I don't necessarily let all of my snakes out with
Right.
everyone all the time.
Absolutely.
Because, like you talked about, there's this respect element that you have with some of them. But the kids, and especially the girls,
Mm-hmm.
the boys, even some of the younger boys were like, oh, I'm not. But the girls, like they loved them.
Yeah.
They loved it, and it's just such a transformational moment to like eliminate and make somebody challenge that fear,
Mhm.
challenge that bias.
Right.
Like,
Because-
why are you afraid? Like, what has a snake ever done to you in life?
Exactly. And there was never any grounding other than, well, my dad said he got chased by a lot, or my dad said snakes were bad, or my dad was afraid of, or my mom was afraid of, and so that fear gets passed on. But it's really cool when you challenge it, and now you create a positive memory
Yes.
inside that child's mind. They got to hold it, they got to pet it, and the next time somebody says, "Oh man, don't touch that snake, snakes are mean," or "Oh, I hate snakes, snakes are awful," that memory comes right back into their head. And
Yeah,
they're
that's
like,
right.
No, I don't. I met this guy.
Yeah.
I was passing out candy and I got to pet his ball python, and she was super cool.
Yeah.
Or I saw Joe at the show and he had an emerald tree boa, and everybody said they're awful, but Daenerys was super cool. Like, he let me hold her and pet her, and she was awesome.
Yeah.
And you'd be able to challenge those preconceived notions of these animals that are just amazing. I love them.
You know, and how many times in life? I mean, the more fears that we kind of face, right? I mean, fear of snakes is a good one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And then all of a sudden, it makes you start, asking that question about, like where else in my life do I have this?
Yeah.
You know?
Fear of spiders.
Right.
Fear of, I mean, I don't think I'll ever get over my fear of palmetto bugs. There is something special about them. I'll pick up a live rattlesnake. I'll wrestle a gator. I'll argue with my wife. Any of those things that I'm afraid of, I will not mess
Not
with.
with the palmetto
I will not mess
bugs.
with the palmetto bug. But, like, I was, funny enough, I have pictures of me holding a Goliath breeding tarantula on my shoulder. She
Right.
was 10.5 inches. Her fangs were more than an inch long. She was a monster. Like, she would put down rats every once in a while. If I fed her like as a treat, she'd put down like a winged or a pup rat
Oh wow.
and kill it. And was never afraid. I held deathstalker scorpions in my hand. I've held rattlesnakes. I had a moment where I was outside and this big giant bumblebee just lands on my chest, and I'm like, I freeze. I'm like, oh God, it's gonna sting me. Oh God, it's gonna sting me. Oh no, oh no. And I literally like had this out of body moment of like, Joe, you have things far more dangerous than that
Oh my God.
in your room. Why are you freaking out about that bumblebee? He hasn't done anything to you.
Right.
He's not aggressive. It's gonna be like, pick the damn thing up. And I like had to conquer that moment of fear. And even me, as somebody who has held wildly aggressive things, I had a 9-foot king cobra in my hand
Right.
just
Yes.
2 days ago.
Yes.
And I didn't even think twice about it
Mm.
because I understand snakes. And I had to evaluate, I don't understand bees.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know enough about them or their thought processes or their reactions or their natural
Just there it is.
instincts.
Kill it.
Yeah.
Just there it is, kill it.
Yeah, oh God, just smack
The
it
American
off.
way. There it is, kill it.
There it is, kill it. We found it.
We don't understand it, kill
We
it.
found it. We're claiming it, but we're also going to kill it.
That's right.
And I picked it up, and I put it off on him, and that I was like, wow, it's cool how even me, somebody who is not afraid of damn near anything,
Right.
a lot of bugs, and I still have those preconceived notions
Yeah.
about things.
Yeah,
And I feel like it opens up your mind to think about so many fears that we have in life.
absolutely.
That we are unfounded. Fear isn't real.
Fear is not
Danger
real.
is real. Fear is in our head.
That's right.
That's good.
We make it up.
So that is the end of that podcast. The end of an interview with one of my greatest friends and somebody that I respect dearly. Craig is an incredible person, and like I said, he has been instrumental in getting the business that is Valhalla Exotics off the ground. I definitely would not be where I am today without that man right there. And it just goes to show how important having resources and having mentors and surrounding yourself with people that motivate you is. And I definitely wanted to include him in the first podcasts and interviews that we do here at Valhalla. So if you've watched that, I hope that you gleaned some information and that you enjoyed experiencing what it's like, again, to get that first animal, to start on this journey. Some of us have been doing this for many, many years, like me, and some of you, I'm hoping, haven't even started yet. And I really look forward to being a part of that journey with you and helping you get that first animal or set up that first animal that you get and experience that with you, because that is part of the magic that is Valhalla Exotics and what we do here. I'm really excited for you to be a part of this journey, for you to enjoy keeping your reptile and keeping that spark alive for not only us who are doing it, but for that future generation. So thank you for joining us for this podcast, and I look forward to doing many more of these with people who have varying levels of experience, and I hope that you stay Valhalla bound.